Let us begin this morning with the January 6th committee that will kick off its first time primetime public hearing tonight. Lawmakers are expected to lay out their case and what they've learned about the events leading up to the deadly attack on the Capitol. Congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane is in Washington covering this story for us. Scott, good morning.
Hey, Vlad, good morning to you. So many of the images from that day are burned into our minds, but the committee says we haven't seen or learned anything yet. They have many new materials to reveal. The committee begins its work in just a few hours, revealing this unprecedented investigation into a deadly attack at the U.S. Capitol.
The Capitol siege is already the largest criminal investigation in American history. 5 people dead, more than 800 defendants charged, weapons, tactical gear, looting, members of Congress running for their lives, even a gallows and a Confederate flag. The January 6th House Select Committee has spent the last year investigating more than just the attack, but what and who gave rise to it.
President Trump and his team moved willfully through multiple means to attempt to halt the peaceful transfer of power.
The committee has completed more than 1,000 interviews and gathered more than 140,000 records despite a boycott and fierce criticism by nearly all Republicans.
This election was stolen from...
The committee says former President Donald Trump was part of a criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States. Key figures in his administration, including former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and advisors Dan Scavino, Peter Navarro, and Steve Bannon, defied subpoenas and refused to talk. Navarro and Bannon are facing criminal prosecution for contempt of Congress. Prosecutors elected not to charge Meadows and Scavino.
All of this is noise.
But others in the inner circle did speak, including Rudy Giuliani and former Attorney General William Barr, and the former president's family members, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Jared Kushner. CBS News has learned the committee has deployed a series of investigative teams. A gold team focused on Trump's leadership group. A blue team focused on security failures, the delayed military response, and police. The purple team on domestic violent extremism and the role of social media. A green team following money trails, and a red team investigating the rioters and their planning. They've collected phone records and text messages, including some sent by House Republican colleagues to Mark Meadows about plans to challenge the presidential election results.
The amount of data, Scott, is absolutely stunning. It maybe is the biggest data effort in the history of congressional investigations.
Former January 6th committee investigator Denver Riggleman says the hearings are designed to tell a story.
What's the big message you believe the committee is trying to put out there?
One word: coordination. And whether you're taking rally organizers or you're taking those individuals who actually stormed the Capitol, right-wing extremist groups, what they're trying to show is coordination.
The first witness at the first hearing is going to be a documentarian who is tracking the movements of the Proud Boys and the accused Oath Keepers on January 6th. Those are the groups accused of conspiring to block the peaceful transfer of power. We also expect to hear some excerpts from the pre-taped depositions from this committee, including with members of former President Trump's family, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. Vlad and Emery.
Well, that ought to be interesting, Scott. Can you sort of take us through exactly what we can expect tonight, though?
About a 90-minute to 2-hour presentation. They're going to try to tell a story. There'll be opening statements from the 2 lead members of this committee, the chairman, Mississippi Democrat Benny Thompson, the Republican, the vice chair, Liz Cheney of Wyoming. Then we expect a video presentation, a rather well post-produced video presentation where we're told we're going to see images and hear things we haven't seen or heard before. That's where some of the revelations are going to come. Then there'll be 2 witnesses, that documentarian I mentioned, but also one of the injured Capitol police officers to tell her account. This is an opening statement of sorts, laying out where the committee is headed. It'll happen in prime time.
So, Scott, is it your understanding that there will be a conclusion at the end of this presentation? In other words, the committee will say, so based on this evidence, here is what we believe, and here's where we are taking this investigation next? Or is it just to provide the American people with this information and let people draw up their own minds, which, as you know, and Emery, you know this too, it's really hard to change people's minds. Once people have made up their minds about something, it's hard to get people to see another way. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. So that's why I'm wondering if they're going to, at the end of it, say, so here's what we believe actually transpired, and we're going to share more of that in the future, or is it just, here's the info?
Right.
Yeah. Both of those things are true. It's unclear there are any persuadables, that anybody is willing to have their mind changed through this process, but there will be a closing argument nonetheless. The committee's final hearing will be a wrap-up hearing. It'll happen later this month. What's more, the committee's going to release a written report of its findings, and the former committee investigator from whom you just heard, Denver Riggleman, says, watch the report. The report might be the most powerful tool and the most powerful account this committee has. They're also going to try to propose legislation based on their investigation, changing some laws to prevent a future January 6th. This committee is quite clear. They believe there is a risk of this thing recurring on January 6, 2025 and 2029 unless there are changes, legislative or otherwise, to prevent a recurrence.
Are they expecting, to Vlad's question, that those who were not that critical about what happened on January 6th, that they will tune into this? Or, what is who do they expect will be the audience here? Or who do they hope?
Yeah, that's their hope. It may not be their expectation. There are some subset of Americans who have turned this off deliberately, who believe that this is a partisan endeavor, a cliched political process that is not of interest to them. And they may be getting that information from any number of House Republicans who've been beating that drum all week, saying this is a witch hunt, this is a unauthorized, improperly composed committee that is doing the bidding of Democrats in a midterm election year. So the committee has to face the reality that some number of Americans will not turn it on out of principle or out of politics. Now, those who do turn it on, can they move people's hearts and minds? There are any number of Americans who are intransigent in their beliefs that this was an insurrection, that this was an attack against democracy. They're already on board. That may be the largest component of the audience tonight, but they're going to make their case publicly for two reasons: because it can help provide momentum to any legislation they propose. They will be proposing legislation, but also there is a political imperative here. They want to make sure people are aware of what they've found, just in case it changes their decisions at the ballot box or otherwise in the future.
All right, Scott, thank you very much.